If that's where you're supposed to be, you are in the right spot. My name is Brittany Boston, and I am with the Illinois Center for Specialized Professional Support, or ICSPS, as we like to call it. Myself, Amy Julian, who is the director, and Dalton Byers, who is my colleague, are both on as well. We support ICCB in providing professional development, developing resources, hosting these types of meetings for IBT. So you will be seeing our faces, hearing our voices throughout this fiscal year. Just so everyone is aware, we are on Zoom meetings. So you are able to turn your video on, you are able to unmute yourself and participate in the conversation. We do just want you to be mindful of that. If you have to step away for whatever reason, or if you have to take a phone call, we know things happen. Just make sure that your video is off and your microphone is muted. You are able to also utilize the chat. You can introduce yourself, ask questions, share comments. If you prefer to unmute and use your microphone, you can do it that way as well. We are recording today's session, so if other work pops up and you need to take a moment, or if you want to share, come back and refresh your memory with this information later, it will be available for you as well. And I believe that is all of my housekeeping. If you have any technical issues throughout and you need some support, you can message myself, Dalton Byers, or Amy Julian, and we should be able to get you taken care of. Otherwise, I will hand it over to Emma and get us started for the day.
All right. Thank you so much, Brittany. And welcome, everybody. Super excited to be here with you all. Like Brittany said, we're at the new grantee meeting for the FY26 IBT grants, and we'll just go ahead and get started. So welcome again. I'm Emma Godwin, and I'm the Assistant Director for Workforce Education. If you guys could take some time and sign in the chat with your name, organization, and email address, that would be great, just for us here at ICCB to keep track of who's here, who might need a recording, although the recording will be sent out to everybody. That would just be super helpful.
We also will double check emails because
Yes.
we know how easy it is to leave a letter off or add an extra letter. So please include your email. Please, please, please. If you want to get notifications, that is.
Thank you,
Sorry.
Angela. No, you're fine. So today we'll go over the grants, just a general grant overview. We'll talk about the grant process and details. The award process, we'll have some key takeaways. I'll provide some contact information, and then we'll have time for question and answers at the end. As your questions come up throughout, just feel free to drop them in the chat and we can come back to them there at the end. All right, and let's go ahead and get started. So grant overview. So the ICCB has received general revenue funding to administer the grants supporting the IBT, or Innovative Bridge and Transitions grants. We have 41 applicants who were funded, which is great, and we are sharing about $9.3 million within this grant. So the purpose of the grants is to create programs or support programs that improve student transitions to and through post-secondary education and into employment. These programs support transitions for individuals with disabilities and scale programs that promote equity, diversity among those served. So some of our target populations, or our target populations, are 16 years of age and older. So these are adults who are not enrolled in high school, or youth who are in school preparing to enter their post-secondary education or training programs. It also includes adults not enrolled in high school. So these adults are folks who have limited academic or basic skills, underemployed, to enter and succeed in credit-bearing post-secondary education and training, leading to employment in high-skill, high-wage, and in-demand occupations. It also includes in-school youth. Serving in-school youth is allowable activity only if this services to the populations preparing them to enter post-secondary education and or training following graduation. It also includes out-of-school youth, and it's aimed at helping populations become reoriented and motivated to complete their education. The overarching goal is to assist students in achieving high school completion or diploma credential, as basis for their entry into post-secondary education. One way to do this is to incorporate ICAPs, or integrated career and academic preparation systems, within your grant. So grant objectives. Objective number 1 is adult education bridge and integrated education and training programming. That's what I was just talking about with the ICAPS programs, and including those. So these the objective of this is to create new and greatly expand bridge or integrated education and training programs, which shall include contextualized basic reading, math, language, skills, occupational competencies, and employability skills. This specifically, this objective shall not supplant required bridge and IET activities under WIOA Title II Adult Education and Literacy Implementation. What I mean by that, here's a little example. If your program needs 20 textbooks for welding ICAPS, supplanting would be having 10 textbooks for your adult education grant budget and then moving that money to personnel and putting the cost of all 20 textbooks in the IBT grant budget, which is not allowable. Supplementing is having 10 textbooks with the adult education budget, grant budget, and then leaving them and paying for the additional 10 textbooks from the IBT grant budget, which is allowable. So then we move on to objective 2, which is seamless transitions for college and career pathways. And the goal of this objective is to implement programs that provide seamless transitions from high school to college or between post-secondary institutions, and including but not limited to curriculum alignment between secondary and post-secondary institutions, and articulation efforts between post-secondary institutions, dual credit programming, CTE program of study development and implementation, college and career pathways, endorsement activities, pre-apprenticeships to apprenticeships, and out-of-school youth career activities. Then we have some subcategories for sub-objectives for objective 2. So 2A is that alignment between secondary and post-secondary institutions. 2B is dual credit programming, CTE programming of study of development. 2C is pre-apprenticeship to apprenticeship partnerships and implementation. And 2D is out-of-school youth career activities. And we have objective 3, which is your wraparound support services. And this utilizes the transition or wraparound services, which provides students with the information and assistance they need to equitably access and persist along career pathways. Objective 4 is seamless transitions for students with disabilities. And the goal of this objective is to create comprehensive programming for individuals with disabilities that provides vocational, psychological counseling, transitional and educational services, and job placement activities for them to work and live independently in the community. Now we're moving on to our grant process and details. First and foremost, grant recipients must comply with all applicable provisions of state and federal laws and regulations pertaining to non-discrimination, sexual harassment, and equal opportunity. UNA, which was previously Amplifund, I'll refer to it as both here, just to make sure everyone's acclimated well, will be notified. We will be notified through UNA/Amplifund if you are in poor standings with the Secretary of State or on a stop payment list or any other issues that might come up. We will then reach out to you to make sure that you're getting that resolved in a timely manner. ICCB cannot do anything about these issues besides inform you. So we're not in charge of connecting you with Secretary of State or the stop payment list or any of those things. It's solely on the grantee to make sure that that gets resolved. All right, Amplifund/UNA, UNA/Amplifund. This is a system in which we will facilitate the grant process. The grant execution process will also happen within Amplifund. All budget and performance reports will be submitted by Amplifund. You'll probably hear me say that about 12 more times during this call. Budget components have specific directions when entering within Amplifund, and I'll dig into that a little bit deeper in a moment. And that's in addition to budget documents that I will also share after this meeting. You will also update your performance measures chart each quarter, which is the programmatic side of your reporting. And it's less submitting a new document and more updating your numbers within the document and uploading that into Amplifund. One thing to note, it's really helpful for us at ICCB if you use whole numbers. Decides instead of percentages or decimals or things like that. And any troubleshooting within the system must go through the Zendesk or their help desk on Una. And this can be accessed by clicking the I in the top right-hand corner on the Amplifund or Una page. You can ask about the where documents need to be uploaded, but please prepare to send your general questions to the Zendesk. If you need access to a login, I think I just saw a question come through about this, a login or a password reset or gaining access to a new username, reach out to your internal Amplifund person. It varies across institutions who that person might be, but there are definitely other departments that you will likely have in your institution that are using Amplifund already and can support you. Think about adult ed, Perkins, dual credit, et cetera. Grant specific questions and requirements, they might differ between the grants. So just keep that in mind as well. All right, so a new process within Amplifund and Una this year is that all expenses and budget items must go into Amplifund at the start of the grant for quarter reports. So you guys were able to, when you guys were submitting and resubmitting your budgets, you guys were responsible for uploading your numbers into Amplifund. This is similar to what you'll do in the quarterly reports. So each quarter you will do a fiscal quarterly report, but then you'll also do, you'll upload those numbers into Amplifund. And we encourage programs to enter those expenses as soon as you have them available to enter. So not waiting until the day before the 30th that wraps up the quarter, but making sure you're entering them beforehand. That way you aren't losing track of those numbers, so on and so forth. And it'll also help to not have to scramble and get everything done at the last minute. When programs are entering these expenses, the system will default to the day that you're entering. So it's really important that you change that date or just be aware of that date. So if programs enter them in April for the quarter report that ended in March, then programs will need to change that date or the expense won't show up in that quarterly report. All right, talk a little bit about quarterly reporting. We're gonna dig a little bit deeper. You can input expenses for personnel and fringe grouped into one expense. Please include the breakdown of that within your notes. So for example, 2 payments in January for Emma, 4 payments in January for Angela. Yeah, no receipts are needed since you're getting these funds up front, but please keep them for your auditing purposes. Something super important to note is that expenses will be put in at the category level. So some of you guys, when re-uploading your budgets and making amendments to your initial budget, I asked you guys to collapse categories within Amplifund. A lot of you guys are like, what the heck does that mean? So that simply means that you are going to put in your total amount in for personnel in at the category level. So a non-example of this would be personnel, $10,000. Jane receives $5,000. Angela receives $5,000. You're just going to want to put personnel $10,000. I will be sharing out a document as well to detail this in further instructions or further. Okay. So some fiscal information. It's imperative that you spend your money. ICCB does not benefit from grantees spending less than their allocable amount. If grantees are having trouble spending their funds, consider a budget modification, reaching out to other grantees during a PD or operational meeting to bounce ideas off of one another. The best resources are those with the boots on the ground. So reach out to each other, use each other as resources. And then lastly, feel free to reach out to us for guidance at ICCB. We are able to support you in ways that you can come up with different ideas to spend your money if you're having trouble with that. All right. One thing that is new that I will share with you all is we have a grants manual. Let me get my screens out of the way. That will be posted on the ICCB website. Can you all see that right now? That PDF document? Great. So this grants manual really outlines how to be successful during your during the life of the grants. This includes things like a roadmap to success during the IBT grant, program components, things like objectives, required activities, allowable activities, budget components, budget descriptions, allowable expenses, indirect costs. There's some bit about that, and budget modification process. There's also some details about funding processes and requirements. So use of funds, funding deadlines, reporting deadlines, closeout reports, there's a section on that, and then some contact information. So this is a really meaty resource, and it's there for you guys to use. I'll send this out in an email, but it also will be posted on the ICCB website. Okay. Go back to where I was. So we have some fiscal contacts for you. Chris, I believe you're on the call. Could you drop your email in to the chat so folks have it to copy and paste? Quarterly reports and modifications go through Amplifund only. We cannot accept them if they're sent via email. So strictly through Amplifund. Compliance questions go to Chris Blankenhorn. And no payment requests. Funds are received upfront. Thanks, Angela. Thought I saw him, but maybe not. Grant reporting. So the grant period is January 1, 2026 through March 31, 2027. Reports are to be uploaded on or before the due date within Amplifund. Again, do not submit anything outside of Amplifund via email, fax, I don't know, mail. I don't know how else you would do that. Extensions must be requested before the due date via email. So if you need an extension, it's totally fine, but it must be requested before the due date of that reporting period. And both your fiscal and programmatic reports are due at this time. So we have quarter one that runs January 1, 26 through 3/31/26. And those reports are due April 30th. And it goes through being due on April 30th, 2027. So we are a 5-quarter grant. This is a 5-quarter grant if you weren't aware of that. So make sure that you are keeping track of all those details. Angela.
Thing really quick. Okay. So 2 pieces. One, in the past, if you've had this grant previously, not necessarily in 25 or not in 25, but 24 or previous, we did grant extensions at the end. We are not doing grant extensions on this grant any longer, which is why it is 5 quarters. So if you build your grant that it is a 1-year program, congrats, you're done at the end of December. We still need the report for the 5th quarter. If you build it that it really is a 5-quarter grant, congrats, you run it for the 5 quarters. You build it how you need to build it. So that's, we know that it's kind of wonky ending in March, but it was the best resolution we could come up with for no more extensions. So just plan accordingly, knowing that it is where it is. And we've done that in 25, and we've had a lot of success with programs getting their money all spent, their activities in, everything is moving correctly. The other piece I want to point out is those due dates on July, October, and January. If you notice, they are not the 31st. It's not the last day of the month. It is the 30th, because the law states that we are supposed to have reports 30 days after the quarter ends, not 31, just so you know. Because we've had audit findings on us when programs have sent in reports on the 31st, and we're like, yeah, they're good. And they're like, no, but they're not. So that's why if you look at these and somebody wonders, somebody at your institution goes, oh, no, it's July 31. No, it's really July 30. That's why it says the 30th. That's all.
Thank you, Angela. 2 really important notes coming from her. Okay, so the quarterly report format, I will screen share some documents that you can look at, and I'll also send them out via email. Your first is your fiscal report. It's one document, and I'll again show you in a moment. And you're supposed to submit that via Amplifund. Programmatic and activities reports is another document, and that is separate from your fiscal. And that's based off of your initial performance measures. So at the beginning of this call, I mentioned that you're not really re-uploading a new document, but you're rather adjusting your numbers and updating your numbers in your performance measures chart. Reports will be uploaded in Amplifund. Please do not submit or send these reports outside of Amplifund. They will not be accepted. And if you need an extension on your report, please reach out to me at emma.godwin@illinois.gov prior to that deadline. Okay, so here is an example of a quarterly fiscal report. So your grant number right here, actually, let me back up. Your grantee is your institution's name. The program name is not Halo Grant or Husky Grant. It's FY26 IBT grant. Our fiscal folks will not know what the Husky grant is. So please make sure you are plugging in the FY26 IBT grant. Your grant number is from your grant agreement in the top right-hand corner. So for example, it will say IBT 359-25 or IBT-AMG-25, but those will likely say 26, I'm assuming, for the fiscal year. Quarterly reporting is report quarter is your FY26 Q1, Q2, 3, 4, 5, etc. UIE is your agency's number, so that's specific to your own agency. And the term start date would be 1/1/26, and the term end date would be 3/31/27. Okay, so your quarterly programmatic report is going to look something like this. I'm actually just going to pull it up really quickly and show you what it looks like because it's pretty neat. If you like Excel spreadsheets. So this looks obviously the same as the last one that I just showed you, but I will kind of walk you through this. So you have your milestone, your entity name, which is your name of your institution. Then you'll have your milestones and goals. So what milestones did you reach? Which goals did you achieve? And then some barriers or challenges. So those might be things that you're still working towards, you're having trouble with, and things like that. So then you will plug in your performance measures. These should be the same across each quarter. So your performance measures do not change. Your the amount that you have for each of the measures will change. So for quarter one, you'll plug in your measures, and you'll do the same for quarter 2 through 5, but it looks like these should carry throughout the document. So if it does, please do not change them. They should stay the same. Then you're going to plug in your amounts for Q2, 3, 4, and 5 when they occur, and then it'll give you a sum total. So this sum total should be hitting that target number you submitted with your application. It can be more, sometimes it is less, and that's okay. Well, ideally it's close to that initial number that you're submitting.
And this is why when Emma said using whole numbers earlier on your performance measures chart is so important. Because when we look at your report and it says 80% of enrolled students will complete a resume, we don't know 80% of what number. So we don't know if you're above, beyond, or right on, because we have to go figure out, we don't know what your enrolled number is. So that's where if you can say 12 students, and we understand that in quarter one, you're not going to have 12 students that have it all done, but we can look at that sum total and that helps us. So that's really where plugging those whole numbers in here is helpful for us to make sure that we understand that you really are meeting all of your measures and you're doing the great work that we know you're supposed to be doing.
All right. Budget modifications, future budget modifications, and notes about that. Use the budget template. Let me pull that over really quickly. This is the budget modification template. I'll talk a little bit about this in a moment. But remember, discretionary budget transfers are capped at $50,000 between budget categories, and overall transfers are limited to 10% of the award. So that's across, if you make multiple budget modifications, that's across the entirety of those budget mods. Please do not initiate the new budget modification until we at ICCB have responded and given you that go ahead. If money is being moved into a category that currently has no money in it, a budget modification is required, no matter the amount that's being moved. So if you're changing personnel from $0 and you're moving money from miscellaneous, that you have to do a budget mod for that. All budget modifications are also submitted via Amplifund and UNA as budget amendments. So Amplifund, UNA, they call it amendments. So just be cautious of that verbiage. There's a difference between what we use at ICCB and what the system uses. All budget modifications, I just said that. And make sure your budget modifications form and your performance measures chart if needed. So sometimes your budget mod comes with some adjustments to your performance measures chart. If you are in that category, just make sure that you are uploading a new performance measures chart, an updated performance measures chart within UNA. And an important date to note is all budget mods are due by February 1st, 2027. That feels really far away, but I know it'll creep up on us a lot faster than expected.
And that's a hard date. We have started turning, our agency has started denying budget modifications that came in after those final deadlines. So that's not a squishy date like some. That's a hard date, February 1.
Right. Thank you, Angela. So here's the budget mod form. So it looks similar to the budget that you filled out previously, but it is quite different. So you have your category levels, what your original budget was, and the modification plus or minus. If you add in, this was $2,000 and you want to subtract $1,000, it'll automatically do the math for you. You just have to add the plus and minus in there. So down here, we have some justification for your modification. So is this a change in scope, unexpected price increase, decrease, etc.? So that is the reason why you are doing the modification. And then what was the original activity description? Include the activity, the amounts, all the pieces that you can. And then the new activity description, include the principal elements, activity, and the amounts, all of those things. And then what are your new expected outcomes? So are you expecting to enroll more students with this? Are you expecting to add a staff member? Whatever that might be. And then down here at the bottom, just getting that signature on there. Nope, I don't want to save. Okay, more budget information. Remember, your approved budget is also your approved budget until modification is approved. So like we just said, do not take any action until you hear back from us if you're doing a budget mod. Funding deadlines. The grant funds must be obligated by March 31st, 2027. Goods and products must be ordered by March 31st. 2027 and received by May 31st, 2027. Services must be rendered by March 31st, 27. Grant funds must be extended by May 31st, 27. And final budget mods, like we just said, our deadline February 1, 2027. To go to this little example here, this has to do with the variances by line. Do not change the approved budget. So your approved budget does not change. On the quarter
report.
On the quarterly report, yes, thank you. Just make sure that's staying the same. I just showed you guys this. This is the budget mod form, just put into a different format for this presentation. And that's the same thing. All right, so we will have operational meetings and professional development meetings. I'm going to send out a registration link for both of these events after this meeting, but roughly they happen the third Tuesday at 10 a.m. Of every other month, roughly. or every 2 months. And like I said, you'll have a registration link. So it's really important and mandatory, actually, that grantees must have one representative attend all required meetings. So if you hear the topic for your operational meeting, or if you're feeling like your fiscal person needs to be here for that operational meeting, just make sure they're jumping on too. It might be beneficial for you to just share the registration link with them so they can pop in, or program people, like whoever you need to pop in has that registration link. So then monthly professional development meetings. So they are conducted and held with ICSPS, and they're a part of the IBT team, like Brittany was saying at the beginning of this call. So they're going to provide Zoom links, any technical assistance during the meetings, and they're offering professional developments on various topics. So I have an ask for you guys in the chat if there's any suggestions for PD topics that you think would be beneficial to your program. Please drop them in the chat at this point. Suggestions could be recruitment, enrollment trainings, working with various types of students, industry sector information, working with employers, grant writing, the list goes on. So if there's anything that comes to mind that you're like, oh, I could really use a lesson in this or learn more about this, feel free to drop them in the chat. And if you are somebody like me who cannot answer questions right on the spot like that, feel free to send us an email as well. So when are they happening? This is another thing that I'll send a registration link for, but they are happening on the third Tuesday at 10 a.m. when the operational meetings are not happening. So while these are not mandatory, it's really, really encouraged that you join because there's so much that you can learn from them. Okay. Lastly, I think this is the last thing. Don't hold that to me. We want to hear about your success stories. Template will be shared out as well. And if you have any standout stories about students that you want to really spotlight, please share them with us. It's really great for us to be able to bring to executive staff and lawmakers and all the important people to see what great work that you guys are doing. So here we are in the awards process. Grantees must update their budget, performance measure chart, et cetera, resubmit to Amplify prior to the grant agreement. We're about here. We are at the point where we're doing some final review on all of the grantees, and then a grant agreement will be sent out, generated, and then sent out to the program contact. Following that, grant agreements are to be signed immediately by the appropriate person within the institution and sent back to us here at ICCB. Applications will be activated in Amplifund, which means that you're moved to the award part of the workflow that we have on the back end. And then ICCB will sign the executed grant agreement that will be returned to the appropriate person. And lastly, payment request goes through the comptroller. I feel like this would be really difficult for me, but wait 45 to 60 days for its arrival. It can take some time. All right. I was right. That was our last item. So, no, I wasn't. Key takeaways. Amplifund is the main system which everything should be submitted and processed. Any Amplifund technical assistance should be requested via the Amplifund help desk called Zendesk. Quarterly reports, both fiscal and programmatic, are due and when they're due, they must be submitted via Amplifund, and any extensions must be requested before the deadline via email to me. You can also reach out to Angela if you forget who I am or whatever. Just feel free to reach out primarily to me. A grantee handbook will be released and shared out to you all. You'll probably get the first look, and then it will be posted onto the ICCB website. Feel free to ask any questions, big or small. We're here to help you and help you guys continue to do that great work that you're doing. All right. And spend your money, please, and thank you. Those are the really important key takeaways that we have. Contact information, you can reach out to me or, like I said, Angela as well, but I will drop my email in the chat. That way it's a good copy and paste. And I will open it up for any questions. Angela, thank you for facilitating the questions in the chat, but I will open it up to everybody else if you have any other questions.
So we can hit some of the questions that were in the chat in case they generate other questions. Also, keep in mind, you're still welcome to throw topics in the chat for PD ideas that you'd like. One of the questions was we need to add a user in Amplifund. I know Emma covered that. We at ICCB do not have the functional ability to add people. We're not being difficult. We cannot. We functionally don't have the ability in the system to do that. That has to happen internally from your institution. So you've got to find whoever, as I said, holds the keys to Amplifund to get them to get you access. So you got to start internally on that one. We answered the question about a one-time payment up front. So within Amplifund, we cannot turn off the payment request option because it's part of the system. It's in there. If you get in and you go looking, you might see it. We had several payment requests submitted this year in FY25, and we denied all of them with the explanation that you're paid up front. So you can put them in. You're not getting any more money. The money that comes up front, and we will process it through the grant process as we do, not through a request from Amplifund from you. So you don't have to do that step to get your money. And if you're in later on and your fiscal people are like, oh, let's put in a payment request, you can, but we're going to deny it because we don't do payment requests through the Amplifund process. Yes, entering expenses in Amplifund is starting in 26. 25 is still the traditional reports that we've been doing. When will grant agreements be released? I know that's a question that lots of people are asking. As I said, Emma and I are hoping by the end of January those will go out. However, we don't do those. We don't build them. We don't send them. We don't do that part of it. And so we are reliant on other people's work schedules to get those done. So we've all got our fingers and toes crossed by the end of January, but we have done our part. We're just hoping that the others can keep moving on their side and get that done as well. And yes, many colleges won't spend until we have them. We know that there is a statement within the grant agreement that says backward spend is not the right term, but you can spend from January 1 moving forward, and it's allowed within the contract. But I also know that if you don't have the contract, you don't have that wording and you don't have that backing. So I get it. We're doing what we can on our end to get those out. Okay, so recruitment. Okay. And I put in kind of the difference between the operational meetings and the programmatic and the professional development meetings. So basically you will have an IBT potential meeting every month on the third Tuesday at 10 o'clock. It's either going to be professional development or it'll be operational. And so there's the explanations between kind of what the difference on those are. Brian, as soon as we get topics determined, we will try to get those meeting topics set. We tried last year. We had a couple of people that one of our early presenters turned up sick. So we had to do a quick switch of topics. But yes, we will try to get those out so you can get the appropriate people at the appropriate meetings. Anybody else have any other ideas that you want to hear? Thank you, George, for your suggestion of recruitment.
All right. Well, thank you all for your time. If there are any lingering questions that you might have that you don't want to ask whole group, please feel free to stay back. Angela and I will be here to answer any further questions that you might have, but I'm looking forward to working with each and every one of you. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. Thanks, everybody.